Alright, here is the audio output chassis. We have power transformer, filter cap, a couple, I think there's 6v6s, 5y3, and I forget what goes there. That'd be a 12AX7 or something like that. 2, 3, 4, no, it's only a 7-pin tube. I'll have to look that up. It'll be a filter choke, a bunch of paper caps, all original power resistor. Everything looks pretty roasted and needs work. And I just noticed there's a plug on the side. I bet that's where the phonograph plugs in to get power. Well, that went smoothly. Replaced all the capacitors and resistors. Went with a single 0.47 in place of the two 0.2s that have been parallel up. Now, we do have to deal with one more thing, and that is the filter electrolytic on top. Notice there's no phenolic wafer. There are no rivets. Yeah, this is a twist lock. So there are 3 slots in the chassis that fed through, the tabs from the capacitor fed through those slots and they were twisted around. That's what's holding it in place. We could install a terminal strip and mount 2 caps down below, but check out this construction. We have 4 metal sides with no ventilation holes in this chassis. So it gets toasty under here. You can see above each of these 2 power resistors it's darkened from heat. Heat is the worst thing for electrolytic capacitors, so we don't want to mount them down below inside of this hot box with no ventilation. We want to put it on top. So what I'm going to do, rather than try to cut this open and restuff it, especially it's tough on these skinny ones, is remove this, drill a couple holes, and use the smaller type of adapter cap. It's just a dual 20 microfarad. Notice what a beautiful job the CLR did on this. I'm really happy with the way this is turning out. Now, I did notice one other thing while working on this. Check out this tube. That is one abused, melted, distressed 5Y3. There's 2 plates in here which are hollow pieces of metal, sheet metal sort of wrapped around into kind of a tube. The bottom 2/3 of this one are just gone on the inside. And a chunk of the bottom of this one is gone. So not only do we have the main TV chassis that had shorted caps and all sorts of bad stuff happen to it, something very bad happened to this as well. And we didn't just have that toasted 100K resistor down below. This has got to be dead shorted on at least one section, if not both. And this. So as we're going to do, we left these disconnected, so I knew I was going to be replacing this cap. Let's clip off the lugs that have wires going to them. Get them out of the way. So it's that guy, and that guy. And I soldered on all 3 just to make it extra annoying for us. But the solder joints usually bust off pretty easily. There's not too much on these 2 guys, so I'm just gonna keep twisting the twist lock tabs until they break off from metal fatigue. There's one of them. Get this guy. That last one has a lot of solder blobbed onto it. So a high wattage soldering gun can be useful. See, they also ran a little wire over to, or no, that's the power transformer. That's one side of the filament going to ground, so I'm going to try to cut that off. I definitely want to reestablish a really good connection to that. So on the filament supply for these tubes, there's 2 heavy wires coming out. You know, all the wires are black, pretty much. Doesn't help any, but one of the 2 filament leads goes right to the chassis. The other goes to the tube filaments, and it's pretty heavy gauge wire. Alright, that may be enough to let us bust the cap off, so to speak. Yes. It's a little charred. Didn't spew its guts, but it's definitely discolored. It also doesn't weigh much, which makes me think it lost all its electrolyte a long time ago. When you feel a cap that's completely dried up, it kind of feels like a maraca. It's noticeably lighter. Sometimes you can hear bits of junk rattling around inside. Alright, so I'm going to use the smaller size, not to be confused with the larger size. So with the printing going down. Now in this case we do want to ground it, so we are going to put a jumper in here where it's between frame and that lug. And we'll mount this down here somewhere, like so. Now one thing to be aware of, these twist log openings, especially for these small cans, it's not a very big opening. So be careful when you install this. Don't go off to one side. Get it centered as best you can to make sure the positive connections in the middle are as far away from the outer edge as possible. We're also only going to be using 2 out of these 3 sections. Doesn't really matter which 2 we use. Clean off this gunk before I mount it, but it'll be something like that. And of course you want to make sure on the other side that there is nothing anywhere near where you're going to be drilling those holes. And yeah, both sides are clear, so we'll be all right there. I cleaned it up a bit with some CLR and then deburred it. Just took a large drill bit and twisted it around. Yeah, they make a specific deburring tool, but this works just fine. And we're going to mount this like so. Just doing a dry run here. Got my cap head screws. I'll use a nylon locking nut on the other side. This is where I got some Chipmunk hardware off of Amazon. Number 6-32, 5/16 inch. I finished work underneath. Now I'm painting the power transformer. Top comes off easily enough. It was a bit corroded inside, used some naval jelly on it, and now I'm doing the top. I'm actually a little concerned about the corrosion here too. So this cabinet got wet. I was in a basement. Maybe there was some water that got in down there. It's not terrible, but I suspect the humidity affected this to some extent. Otherwise, why would there be corrosion on the inside of this? Now, it does appear that it was just bare steel. I'm going to put a light coating of paint on the inside, scuff up the outside a bit, and give this a couple coats. Hit it up with a couple quick passes with this stuff. Dries rather quickly. And there we go, way nicer than it was. And this is probably the last day I'll be able to paint for months. So it's in the low 50s today, but it's going to be getting down into the 20s, even teens at night, very shortly. Alright, put that back on. Obviously dig up a new 5Y3, a 6AT6 test speaker, power cord. I'm sure it's the original, and it's actually rubber, but it's not hardened. And I'd really like to keep using this. It's all coiled up, I'm sure, since the day it was made, because it plugs right into the TV. But there is one nick in the insulation right there. I'm thinking I could put some heat shrink tubing over that and just go with it. It's not that bad. There's not any nicks on the copper. Just a little bit of the rubber is gone. I'd really like to retain this cord if I can. Alright. Dig up a speaker and fire up my WaveTech audio generator, and let's see what this puppy can do. I'm about to clear my workbench off and rearrange things, but before I do want to try powering this up. Now, I want to mention A few things before I do. One, I did get some beefier caps in here, a little bit wider lead spacing than these adapter caps are made for, but because I'm only using 2 out of the 3 sections, I was able to rotate them and fit them in here. So that's that. Now down below, there's a little confusing with the SAM service info because there's differences between the tabletop and the console version, because the console version, the audio amp is on the main chassis, single-ended output. The big combo unit has the outboarded audio amp. Well, I didn't look at the parts list carefully enough, and I didn't realize that this uses some different parts. In particular, this power resistor and the one over here, I did not order. So this is one that was actually for the main chassis. I needed to get 2 of these, 680, 7 watt. And seeing how charred it was down here, I think I should use an even bigger one than that. I think originally it was a 5 or a 7. And this guy, I think, was only a 2 watt originally, but it was definitely charring, not charring, but like heat marks above it. I think that's a 5 watt carbon film or metal oxide, something like that. At any rate, I ordered up 2 new resistors. Going to get a 10 watter for that guy, and I think a 5 or a 7 for that guy. But I want to try this right now with these parts that are in there. So, I'm going to use this existing power cord. I'm going to just hook up one test speaker. I believe it drives the speakers in parallel. It might be series, I don't know. And we'll need to feed in an audio signal to this. So I got to rig up an audio generator. Got a Wave Tech way up there I'm going to dig out. Now I do still need to replace the missing 6AT6, and thanks to my reorganized tubes, I know they're right here. Got some nice new old stock ones in there, so pull one out, pop it in, and let's fire it up. The 2 speakers are run in series, and if you look close at the speaker connectors, there's a white wire running between them. That is the common, and there's a green and there's a red connector. So I've got those going to my single speaker that I have up here. And I'm feeding the output of this WaveTech 183 into the amp. Put in a new 5Y3, a new 6AT6. It's plugged into my Sencor. Let's put that in. It is in current mode. And it's plugged in. So here we go. That was odd. Oh, there we go. There was nothing odd, I just didn't turn it on. Whatever, I'll have to review the footage. What happened there exactly. Kind of fought me. So there is a buzzing. Well, that's actually coming out of my Sencor, I believe. So here we go. Let's get the level down very low. And start increasing it. Well, yeah. It's working alright. Awesome. Fun gadgets if you never played around with it. It's a sweep audio generator, so I can have some fun with it. So we change the sweep time. That's how quickly it sweeps from the low to the high frequency. And sweep width, how far the low and high frequencies are apart, and this sets the center frequency. And then you get different waveforms. You can do sine wave, you can do triangle wave, you can do square wave. We can do pulse, width, and we can vary the symmetry with this guy over here. And basically a very crude analog synthesizer. So you can hear down to 100 hertz fairly well there. Let's turn that down. Alright. There's 1 kilohertz. Up to 5. For a TV, that's plenty good enough. But let's go even higher, shall we? Alright, there's 10 kilohertz. My hearing starts to crap out around in here, so there's 15 kilohertz. I don't know if anybody can still hear that. I can't. Yeah, that sounds real clean to me. No hum, no distortion, no clipping. I can get that plenty loud. So, I think that's a winner. I was getting a little nervous considering how fried and charred everything was, and the melted 5Y3 and all that. I don't know what happened. Well, actually, here's my theory about what happened to the set over the years. Is the TV sat in the home I got it from for decades. The woman I got it from, I don't recall if she was born in that house, but she lived there a very long time, and this TV was always there. She doesn't know where it came from exactly. It might have been in the house when they bought it way back when. I'm sure over the years, various family members, friends, visitors, whatever, decided to, let's plug this in and turn it on and see what happens. So I'm thinking there might have been successive waves of people plugging it in and screwing around with it until things started failing. We've seen vented caps and damage on the main chassis, and this had its host of problems too. And I do believe, so there was a fuse on the main chassis, and there's some speculation that, well, shouldn't the fuse have protected this? I'm pretty sure as the outlet routing goes that they're all daisy chained. So the phono plugs into this plugs into the main chassis, and I think it's just wired straight to the power cord. I'm pretty sure the main fuse is for the TV chassis only, which would explain why this just roasted and roasted away. If you really want to have fun with one of these, get 2 of these and plug the output of one to the VCG into the other one. Amazing, insane sounds out of this. Alright, so that's going to be it for this installment. It's fantastic. We have a functioning audio amp. I can smell that resistor getting a little toasty under there. The 220, not very warm at all, but this guy, that's getting pretty warm. So the upgraded resistor will help with that. When we pick up, we are going to resume work on the main chassis. Thanks for watching.